America. We're going to now have our daily perspective a little bit later than usual. But let me tell you that the arrival of the US President Donald Trump here in France inspired a new language quarterly review, one with a publication span of a 4-year mandate, the same as was given to the US President. Its aim was to look at the United States today in a way that's different to the news media, to take perhaps a step back and get mostly the view of writers, both in the US and here in France. Well, to give us his perspective on the country of Donald Trump, we're joined in studio by editor-in-chief of that review, which is called America, Mr. Julien Bisson. Thanks for your time. Firstly, explain to me a bit more of just how you came up with this idea. Once you heard that Donald Trump had been elected president of the United States, how did you then jump to, I need to make a review for this?
Well, this review was founded just in the aftermath of Donald Trump's election. I mean, we, with the other founders, François Bunel, who is a TV host of La Grande Librairie in France, and Eric Fotorino, former director of Le Monde, we had this idea that there was a lack of understanding of what was really going on in the US, that we should send back people on the ground, that we should stop only trust analysts here in Paris. And we had also this feeling that if we had read more closely the great writers, their great novels, we would have had a better understanding of the American population itself. When you read the great novels by Toni Morrison, by Russell Banks, by Paul Auster, you can feel the deep rifts within the country. So we had also this feeling that we needed to ask them to write these long essays, to have these long interviews, because these writers, they also welcomed this initiative because they also felt that in the US they were not heard anymore, and it was for them an opportunity to give them this understanding of their own country.
And I guess writers are inspired a lot, or predominantly nearly, by the society around them and how it's changing. So over the years that it's been in publication, what have they seen? Is there anything that a lot of writers, the same theme that has come through of what they're noticing that's been different in the US?
Well, they're noticing the big changes are going on in the country. They're noticing that there is this growing rift between inside the population. I mean, we have this great interview with Bret Easton Ellis in this newest issue, who is saying that there is this lack of dialogue now between Americans, that there is so much polarization inside the country that people can't talk to each other anymore. That if you are you're pro-Trump or against Trump, and you can't have this discussion that you could have before in the country. So they are very feeling that everything is becoming ideological. That there are rifts that are very difficult to be tied in.
Indeed, a lot of rifts and a lot of divisions on a lot of topics, from race relations to the wilderness even of the United States. But, are there positive sides of, how this can now be addressed? How we can go back to again opening up the dialogue? Yeah.
I think there are very important things to build up new narratives for the US. That's what these writers try to do. The writers we ask that we make work in this review and this tri-monthly, they don't have this short range that we journalists have. I mean, we have to have this short range to check the news, and they have this long range. They can try to have a deeper analysis, a depth that we can't afford because we lack time or we lack space. So they have this long range on the political or sociological topics, but also have this more intimist aspect of the news. They don't just tell the news; they tell how these news affect them. We have these great texts by Richard Ford or Margaret Atwood on the current situation, and they analyze this current situation by saying how it affects their day-to-day lives. And when they talk about themselves, they talk about us. I mean, they put words on feelings that most of us have and can't really describe. Yeah,
struggle to identify in many ways. Now, one thing in this latest edition, you look at a great classic by, The Great Gatsby. That's something you do often in this review. And you say that, OK, things have changed and, Donald Trump's America is leading to less dialogue. But, there are recurrent themes, both in modern literature and in those classics.
Sure. We try to understand, the American experience with this magazine. We try to understand how this American experience has shaped the population, and it's true that when you read great novels by Fitzgerald or maybe Philip Roth, or when you read novels by Bret Easton Ellis, you could have felt that there was an historical thread that would have led to Donald Trump's election. So we try to read these past novels and try to understand how they give us clues, how they give us insights into the American experience, and try to, that way, to give us a better understanding of the situation.
Of the United States. And of course, this review is in the French language, so it's aimed at the French public. You know, is there a very large appetite here in France for what happens in the US?
You know, there have always been this love-hate relationship between the French and the American. But most of all, aside from this love-hate relationship, there is this great passion of the French for American history, American literature, American culture overall. And then there is also this deep curiosity about this political turmoil in the US, because French people, they know that our countries are linked. They know that what is going on in the US can happen here in France. So they want to understand what's going on in the other side of the ocean, so that maybe they can avoid a repeat in France.
And we often say that negative events or difficulties are perversely good for culture because they breathe a lot of inspiration. Has that been reflected by any of the authors? Well,
yeah, it's true. Well, most of the authors, they said that they had been really struck by Donald Trump's election, that it was difficult for them to write novels after that, because they didn't know how to capture the moment. They knew that they wanted to write on the situation, but how to make a novel when you have a novel character in the White House? The reality was even bigger than fiction. And now they're saying that they have now new ways to try to capture this moment, and it gives them a new creativity.
Indeed, perhaps a useful format for that, and of course a life cycle of 16 editions, 4 for every year of the presidency. Remains to be seen perhaps if after 2020 there'll be another edition? Yeah,
it was fitting to say that this project was following Donald Trump's mandates, so normally it should end in 2021, maybe 2025.
Okay, watch this page. Mr. Julien Bisson, thanks so much for coming in and giving us your time.